Hey, man, you see we're back at it again, man. It's that You Heard podcast. Yo, real quick, we're not even at the Canes we're at. Go get that pack, yo. Go get that. You seen it.
It's
seen
coming.
it. Everybody.
Yeah.
It's on the way.
Yes,
hey, man,
sir.
1,020 subscribers. We got a special guest on the line, man. Jumping on after the intro. Make sure you don't leave a comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Y'all already know what to do, man. I ain't got to go through it again. Let's get into this intro and let's chop it up, man. Bam.
Welcome to the You Heard podcast with your hosts, Ben, Joe, and CB. We're here to cover everything related to Miami Hurricanes football, from hot topics to pre and post game analysis.
All right, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
No, let's talk about that right now. You put it on me now.
I hate him for knowing this, bro. This man knew the brand, dog.
Okay, I don't appreciate it. I'm saying, like,
I mean, what did you talk? What are we talking about, son?
Get into it. I felt
keep it in the fuck. You heard?
I don't know what happened there. I don't even know what happened. I got kicked off in the middle of our own intro.
I see.
That was wild. Hey, man.
Yes.
It's the dead period right now, but it's never really dead. You know what I mean? So I had to get on the hotline, but like, hey, it was like, hey, yo, 247.
All right. Listen, my guy is having some technical difficulties. This happens when you live in Bushnell. It just happens, you know, when you live out in the country. He's Benny Boondocks for a reason. So,
son, this is crazy.
Things are happening currently.
I mean, it's doing the same thing again. I got perfect in it. All right, man. Look, yes. I was like, yo, 247, send me your guy, man. So Gabby came on the show, man. What's going on, Gabby? How you doing, brother? 247 inside the U. You seen him. You seen his clap back. You seen his recruiting inside, man.
Oh man, he's gone again, man.
He's Gabby, man. I don't know what's going on, man. We used to have some issues with the internet, man. He fixed it. He got his own dedicated.
He was bragging about it, bro. He was telling he was in the pre-show. I got this new internet. It's all good now.
Yes, it was. It's been good for the last couple of weeks, but you know, as we see, he has issues. How you doing, though, brother?
I'm good, man. Grinding out through some stuff right now. Just a little under the weather, but you know, coming out on the other side of it. So, you know, feeling good enough to do all this. So, but it's the most I've done in probably 4 days. So, you know, excited to get back into it.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad you were able to make it, man. And we love it. We love it, man. Tell us about how you started, man. So Gabby, just so we can introduce you. Yeah. Gabby's the recruiting. We're not going to say guru. We're not going to say insider. The recruiting guy for 24/7 Sports. And what'd you say? Who else?
For me, for 24/7?
Yeah. 24/7. And did you say somebody else?
No, just 24/7.
Okay. I thought you said something else before.
No.
Yes, Gabby's that guy, man. And you see him all on Twitter. You see him, you know, just spreading knowledge, hooking us up with information, you know, as much as possible. And you know, he does this thing, man. So how did you get started? Like how did it all start for you?
Yeah, man. I kind of love talking about that. I think it's a cool deal. You know, I really, you know, kind of started going to school, like right after high school, started going to school, you know, had the, you know, kind of crazy aspirations, you know, just like everyone else, doctor, lawyer, you know, still went into pre-law, hated it, you know, kind of really just fell out of, you know, the school thing, you know, found myself kind of just like, you're back, bro. I thought you had good internet. What happened here?
It happens every other episode. I just get kicked off. My streamer just goes, "Hey, I'm down."
You're good. So Joe's asking me how I got started
I got started in the game. Yep.
And so, you know, just really honestly just kind of struggled with what I really was passionate about. Just, you know, just kind of doing all that. Found myself just really not even in school, just kind of doing basic jobs. I was, working at an after school care, which was a blessing because that's where I met my wife, working at Gulliver, the elementary school after school care. Met her there. Met her. She changed my life. I mean, she kind of helped me discover that I always loved sports, always loved Hurricanes football, season ticket holder, been to every home game. And, she was just kind of like, so why don't you try something in that? And I'm just like, yeah, that's not like super easy to do, like to crack into like this whole field. First thing I did, I re-enrolled in school, kind of got my stuff together, switched my major to journalism communications at Miami-Dade College. It's just a local community college down here. And emailed Cam Underwood at StateOfTheU. And he told me that there was no spots. He said, no, we're just not looking for anyone right now. So I was just kind of like, all right, just kind of kept grinding it through. He eventually, like maybe 6 months, maybe a year later, tweets out again, like, hey, we're looking for writers. Immediately applied. I had done stuff on my own, just writing stuff for fun, just because I liked it. And, kind of got right in through the door there, and then just kind of took advantage of that opportunity, right? Like, I got an opportunity to kind of sit in the press box once a year. Like that first year was like every writer. And, at the time it was like, there was like 9 people, and it was just like, who wants to kind of do one game? So I did one. He introduced me to a bunch of the writers that were there, which was really cool. Extremely grateful for Cam Underwood. Like I literally could not have done this without Cam Underwood. And, really just kind of took that opportunity, rolled with it, saw that they were credentialed for, the football games, like for the press box. So I kind of reached out to Cam. I was like, hey, I'd be willing to cover practices or, fall camp or spring football if that's something that you can do. And he's like, yeah, if you're willing to do it. And, at this point, I'm already at FIU. I'd already finished my AA at Miami-Dade. And, just kind of took it seriously. It was a blog thing. I was making basically no money, but I knew that this was an avenue for me to kind of just, really just expose myself to something that I wouldn't get exposed to otherwise. FIU does not have a sports journalism program. It was all like, typical journalism, political journal. I'm just not interested in that type of stuff. So I told my professors, like, hey, like I was very transparent, like, hey, Lee, I'm grateful, but, this isn't really what I'm passionate about. I have this opportunity to do this. And I basically got an okay from one professor who was my teacher for multiple classes at FIU in the journalism school, which is really small, to occasionally miss class if I really needed to cover a practice at Miami. Because they really opened the door for me to be able to do that, which was huge. And so, just kind of going through all that, going through that process, writing stuff after practice, my observations. I'm just working, just trying to do something. I don't know who's watching me. I remember one day cornering Manny Navarro and actually David Lake at the time. And it's funny because my intention was to talk to Manny Navarro. I knew of 247. I knew of Andrew Ivins, but I didn't consume a ton of 247 content. So I didn't really know much about David at the time. But I knew Manny Navarro because Manny Navarro growing up was a newspaper guy. He was,
Miami Herald.
Miami Herald, all that stuff. So Manny Navarro, in my head, was a huge, huge deal. And he is, he's a great dude. I mean, I had lunch with me, David, and Navarro grabbed dinner at IMG a few weeks ago when we were there for that Future 50. I mean, man, he's awesome. But I was just like, hey, like, what can I do to crack into this industry? And Manny, and not a negative way, but it was the truth. Like, hey, like, Inter Miami's just starting now. Maybe you should try to, go cover them or try to do something like that they're starting up just to kind of get that path. Like, he basically told me I did high school for 8 years and I did, I did the Heat, prep. And then eventually, like, he was talking 12, 15 years down the line. He said, I finally got on the Hurricanes beat. So in my head, I'm just like, dude, like, all right, man, I'm willing to grind this thing out or whatever. And man, it just crazy, honestly, just such a blessing of an opportunity. Andrew Ivins, who's our director of scouting now, he was getting promoted to a national role within 247. So the Miami beat was opening up. And, again, it's kind of one of those things that you just kind of work. I was just working hard to work hard because that's just kind of like my nature. And, I didn't know that people were really watching. My dad, is a hardworking Cuban guy. He's one of those guys up at 5 a.m., home late, no excuses, get the work done. So I always saw that. And he always told me, like, you never know who's watching. And I'll never forget it. It was in February. I had just proposed to my wife. I was waiting tables at a restaurant, just trying to get by to make money in college. My wife's at UCF. I was just kind of like, I want to marry this girl. I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I'm literally spending my Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday brunches, waiting tables, trying to make $200 a night to save whatever I can, not knowing where life was taking me. I knew I was graduating that summer. And literally like a week after I proposed to my wife, I get a DM from Ivins like, hey, man, you got any summer plans? Like, what are you kind of thinking? And I was like, bro, I'll do whatever I was like, I don't have any summer plans if you're telling me I shouldn't have any summer plans. Like, you know, like
all depends
whatever,
on what
like,
you're about to say next.
Yeah, it literally like it depends what you got for me. And he was just like, yeah, you know, like kind of explained to me what was going on, and you know, thought that there would be an opportunity for me. Like I was someone that you know, people had kind of mentioned to him, and a name that had been kind of approved by even others. I was on Storm Surge. Just, I don't know how. I mean, it's a little. I mean, me, Kev, Ricky. Did a podcast with Carp also, and so it was a part of the Big Three Roll Up Network, the OG Big Three Roll Up Network, not what it is now. And so Josh Newberg was a part of the Big Three Roll Up with Kev and Silk. And so Newberg, me not even knowing Josh Newberg at the time, vouched for me 247. I'd never even spoken with him before or anything like that, but just because of what I was doing with Storm Surge and the Big Three, you know, he kind of, and Josh is, you know, I know everyone has an opinion about him, but, you know, he's a big name in the recruiting industry. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. And, you know, really it was just one opportunity kind of led to another, and it was kind of a stars aligning moment. And, you know, kind of got my foot in the door with 247. And, you know, since then, you know, Ivan's kind of took me under his wing for like a year and a half before he fully transitioned. And then it was just kind of, you're on your own, kid. And, you know, kind of had to figure it out from there. But, it's been an interesting journey, bro. You know, it's definitely something I'm grateful for, man. I know it's not traditional, and, you know, it's not everyone's path, but, you know, it's mine, man. And I really do. And I'm grateful for, you know, honestly, everything that has kind of happened, because it's been unconventional. It's been weird. But it's been awesome, bro. It's been a really fun ride so far.
That's incredible.
Man. What a story.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, probably a little bit longer than you guys wanted, but
I love stories like that. I love stories.
I love that.
That's incredible, man.
I was envisioning that, like you having a late night talks with your dad, and just like that immigrant mentality, right? Because I'm Cuban and Panamanian, so I know, like, it's just that thing, like, you'll just work, bro. Just work. Like, whatever you got to do, just work. Just keep pushing, keep doing what you got to do. I remember I had this saying, like, it's immigrant mentality, right? It's called siempre hustling. Like, it's just, that's what it is. You just make, what's the next move? Let's keep going.
Right.
Work. Just keep working. Somebody's going to notice. Just keep working. And that's what it is, man. All right. So let's go back, man, a little bit to, what was that first, like, practice like, right? Like, when you were like, I really want to follow this team. You said it earlier, like, green and orange walls, grew up loving this team. What was that first practice like when you were the 247 guy and started getting into the whole recruiting thing? And, like, what's the process into all that? Like, what was it like from where it was to what it is now? Not recruiting, but like your process into it.
Yeah, no, it was weird, bro, because so I started, so I officially accepted the job. My first day on the job was April 1st, 2020. So I was interviewing for the job through when the pandemic started. So like me and Ivan started talking in February. Everything shuts down. The sports world shuts down in March. I'm freaking out. Like, am I still going to have this? They did go through with it, thankfully. Yeah. So, like, it's funny. So I started April 1st, 2020. My first recruiting, like, just purely recruiting event wasn't until June of 2021. So it was a really weird start. But, like, just from, and then for practices and stuff, there was no, like, recruiting thing. So it was just a lot of team stuff, a lot of phone calls. So I feel like I didn't even get a taste of like what it was even like traditionally like even after I had been working for nearly like a year and a half, it was still all like me learning everything for the first time, because this was the first time I'd ever gone through a traditional process. But I mean, really just kind of going through that really just kind of just being there. It was just kind of surreal, man. Just kind of knowing that I was a part of this great network. Just kind of like still kind of like that, almost like kind of like imposter syndrome. I remember kind of feeling in the beginning, like, why me? Like, I mean, this is a really big deal. Like, I'm with 24/7 Sports. Like 3 years ago, I was on academic probation at like a junior college. Like, why? Like, how is this happening right now? So I mean, I just remember just always like every time I walk into that facility, I mean, it's just really a feeling of just like, man, this is awesome. You know, just this is just a really cool thing, and you know, just really watching practice. I remember my first practice ever, like my first ever practice covering, like even for State of the U, was that first spring with Tate Martell. And I remember throwing out a tweet. I threw out a tweet. It was the first tweet that, again, it wasn't like viral, but I was like, I had like 300 maybe not even. Like, I was just nobody, you know, like, it was the first time that a tweet got like, you know, rival fans were tweeting back at me, and I was just like, wait, what the heck is going on? It was like Tate Martell threw an okay pass, like over the shoulder. I forgot who caught it, but it was a good throw. But it was just kind of like we were still in that hype Tate Martell mode, and it was
lasted about 3 weeks.
Just about. It was honestly that first practice, I was walking away like that's just not gonna work here. But anyways, it was cool, man. I mean, all that stuff. It's been just really cool just doing all this.
Wow. Tate Martell. What year was that?
2020.
So I think it was the 2018. I think it was the 2018 season.
Yeah.
It was the 2018 season. Because my first time in the press box was the 2017 season, I think. I forgot which game it was.
Wow.
But I remember the 2017 season.
Almost 6 years ago. That's crazy.
Because I was like, I know he wasn't there when Quentin was. I know he wasn't there when Quentin was there. Definitely not.
No, he was gone. He wasn't. I didn't even think. I was surprised he made it through fall camp. Anyways, that's all right. Joe, go ahead.
So the recruiting aspect of it, man. Like, how much of a grind is that? Like, are you grinding as? Listen, the staff currently is ridiculous at recruit. It's a hell of a grind.
Yeah.
Are you? Is it how different is it now?
Good question.
As opposed to before, with covering it.
No, it's way different. It's way different. It's intense, man, and there's a lot of moving parts, bro. It's definitely a grind. I mean, no question, it's a grind. There's just so much. There's so many moving pieces, and that's like, I think that's the hardest part about it. Is just it's a constant tightrope of just like, okay, this is true, but can you talk about this? No. So you kind of have to phrase. Like, I feel like I'm always kind of tailoring the way that my messaging is, because I want to say what's happening, but I'm also not trying to piss people off, like, so it's just like, I don't want to burn bridges, because there is a line, especially with this staff. There's absolutely a line of just like, they're going to see what I write. Like they're going to see what I write. They're going to hear what I say, and I will hear about it. Like I will get a phone call and I will get an earful about it. So it's just like very, it's interesting. And it's just like, when it's going good, it's great and stuff. But when it's not going good, but it's a back and forth. It's a give and take. It's a working relationship. It's, help me help you type of thing. And again, really Miami's been awesome about it. Dang, sorry. For the they do a really good job, man, and they try. They're really working. I think that there's no doubt that there's consensus belief in that building that they're going to get this thing fixed. They want to recruit at a high level. They're going to chase after the best of the best. I mean, they're not going to move from that standard. Are they going to bat 1,000? Absolutely not. But, these guys are working hard, man. And these guys are definitely they're shooting their shots, which I appreciate, which I respect. And, it is a grind though. This recruiting stuff it's like, obviously they can't talk about it. So it's just, you like, in a way you are an outlet. But at the same time, it's also so secretive. Like no one wants anything. No one wants anyone to know anything, but everyone wants to know everything.
Everything.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah. Like, are there? Because I personally feel like let's talk about a guy like Artavius Jones, right? Who was kind of on the low, kind of under the radar a little bit. I personally feel like the staff wouldn't want everything to get out about him. They want to kind of keep it on the low before everyone else
finds out.
Gets wind of Artavius Jones. Is it something? Do you get that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely. Especially. I mean, just with a lot of things like that, there's a lot of things that they don't want out, and it's just like.
It gets out.
It's hard because I mean, recruiting is a massive industry, and the way that I try to frame it is just like people are probably going to find out anyways. So how do you want it what do you want the messaging to be? Like, you can either control the message or the message can control you. And I'm not saying I'm their mouthpiece or anything like that. Like, I'm definitely not suggesting that, but I do think that they understand the value of, all that stuff. But yeah, like an Artavius Jones, for example, like it's tough because it's just like you want people to be excited about him first and foremost. Like I think he's a total stud, but then it's just like it's a weird situation. Also, like the kid's just the way he's going about his recruitment is different. Right. He's a different type of kid. If you talk about him, you just hear about his situation, the circumstance. It's definitely it's a balance. And you went through it. I know you went through it, Joe. Like I know, like the process can be so like. It's hard to explain, man, unless you're like when because I feel like I'm so in the weeds of it these days that it's just like, man, there's nothing like college football recruiting. Like there's nothing like this industry. People don't realize that this is not black and white. Like this is like the gray far outweighs the common or just like the basic understanding of what you kind of see in this stuff. There's so much that goes into it these days between the handlers and the high school coaches and all. It's
family and mothers,
mothers, everything. I mean, now you throw in the NIL stuff. I mean, like recruiting is crazy. Like all of this stuff is crazy. And I mean, with an Artavius Jones, like you want to keep it. Dang, my bad. You want to keep it quiet.
I love how
you want to keep
it.
I am fighting it.
I respect
I'm gonna hit the mute button so hard after this little tangent. But sometimes it's hard. You can't, and you want to keep those secrets. Kind of try to hold that one down. But these guys all get out there. Everyone knows who these kids are, and one way or another. I mean, you can only do so much. You just kind of try to lock them up if you get a whiff of them before everyone else does.
All right, go ahead and hit that mute button and try to breathe for a second. There we go. Man, listen. Shout out to Gabby fighting.
The
whole time he talked through a cough. That's just some gangster shit.
Yeah.
That it looked like it hurt the entire time. I'm trying not to laugh. I was like, Gabby fight, but he's like, I'm gonna get these points across. So with recruiting, right? Like that thin line. Look, we're new-ish to the game. Joe, obviously, different perspective than me. I mean, having his son going through it, and we hear things, right? But we're like, look, we're not that show, we're not that podcast, we're not, and it's like what we say and what we don't say, because like you want to get excited about certain things, and like just hearing whispers and like but then you hear then you see like a space about a certain topic. It was like, hey man, like it's not supposed to be so public, right? Like we got to keep these things, like especially for the people who are doing it, was like you got to keep these things quiet. You got to work with the staff as well. Like you can't be a Canes fan and be like a guy who wants to be a reputable source, but then do a space where like you're using that content and a name, you know what I'm saying, to get your clout up. Like when we did like the Artavius Jones huddle, right? Like we didn't do that. That got a bunch of views. We didn't do that. We didn't go into that knowing what Artavius Jones was about to do, catching wide receiver screens. You know what I mean? But when
he's
you
a
see
beast,
that,
bro,
like when you see that, I was like, what the hell did I just see? Like,
he's a freak show,
bro. It's so like you saw him, you see players like that in person, and you talked about it, like they're shooting their shots for the bigger name guys. How is that different, and how does a fan base that wasn't used to going after those names, right? How do we start getting more accustomed to these conversations as opposed to like the outrage of 2 weeks ago? You know what I mean? The Friday disappointment and then the Sunday, Hayes Foster grab. Like where do we find our coughing is contagious?
Nah, you go.
Yeah, bro, I got you.
Yeah, where do we find the balance? Like how do we start to like comprehend the balance, man?
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, it's hard for me, like, because you want to be excited. I mean, again, like you want to believe that these guys are going to do what they are trying to do. Like again, and I do think to a certain point they're holding themselves to a certain standard. Like the standard is, I mean, to sign a top 5 class. Like realistically, I mean, that's like if you talk to anyone over there, no one's gonna say, yeah, we're aiming at like a top 15 class. They're gonna say, no, we're trying to sign the best class in America. Or we're trying to sign top 5 class. At the end of last cycle, it was just kind of like, if we got this guy, would we move into the top 3? It's like, all right, come on, bro. Like, what are you talking about here? It's I mean, I think it's fair to have those expectations of just like, and it is hard of just like, we're kind of, this is not, I don't know, new, I mean, I don't know if it's new or whatever. Because, I feel like Miami always has kind of chased, so those big, elite kind of dudes. But I just think you guys, I mean, I think it's fair to be upset about a miss. I think the Justin Scott thing was really disappointing. I feel like the Ja'Cory Barney thing was disappointing too. Just him kind of choosing to go to Nebraska after whatever. That's a different conversation. Anyways, so I think it's fair to be disappointed, and I think it's all right that people kind of express that frustration because, I think they kind of, I do think they kind of see that, they feel that, and, and they want to be great. These guys want to be great, and I think that if they aren't living up to their own standards, I think the same way they would hold a player accountable, I think they hold themselves accountable, and so I honestly don't push back on. I get people are going to be upset. People are going to be negative. I think when it gets like disrespectful is when it's like, all right, you're kind of. But I get when people are like, hey, this sucks. Like, Miami's losing to these guys. Like, bro, be mad. Like, you're a fan. Like, this is not a good thing that just happened. Like, you should probably be upset about this. Like, if you weren't upset about this, like, it would just kind of be like, all right, like, why wouldn't you?
You don't really care. Yeah.
So, I do think there is a balance of, and even going back to like what you're kind of talking about earlier with just like people kind of even going on the spaces and stuff like that. Like, I mean, people are going to do whatever they want to do, like there's no way to stop it. The only way that, you can really do anything about that is by just shutting it all down, right? Like you just got to shut down. Yeah. I mean, people are going to talk about whatever's on the internet. People are going to talk about whatever it is that they want to say. People are going to say that they know things and they're going to talk about what they think they know. And I just think that's a part of this whole crazy world that we're in now, where it's just like, we like having a platform is as simple as hitting a button on a social media app and inviting anyone and everyone who wants to join in. And you have your microphone power and you have speaking power and you can do with that what you want. And so I think it's just, this is the new social media age where it's just like, kind of is what it is. It's just honestly, and then I'm telling you, man, this recruiting stuff's nuts. So people get, people are passionate about it. That's why I have a job, is because people like this stuff so much. Like
true.
247 Sports is a very, very successful industry because people love recruiting. People love this stuff, man, and I do think it's a way to. I think I think it's a way to keep people engaged, those, season round, like there's no other sport that like when the season ends, there's a whole new like wave of things that doesn't really end. Things still, it never ends. It's a 365-day calendar, like your season ends and then it's okay. Now we need to sign our class in or you're preparing for a bowl game and it's just like second practice and the staff is all running to the war room trying to make sure that all their commits are going to sign in 3 days or trying to flip someone. Like it's crazy. So I just think this is just the era that we're in with all this stuff.
So you've been in it for a while. Yeah. You've been in it for a while. How important, in your opinion, is momentum? Right. So we talk about momentum in the summer, right? So there's two camps. We're not getting anybody in June and July. We suck. We're not getting anybody. We're terrible at recruiting. The other camp is, it's only June and July. It doesn't end until December. In your opinion, or January, or whatever. How, in your opinion, is important is the summer momentum, and what camp are you in?
Yeah, I see both sides. Like I think in this new age, again, just with the summer, these summer official visits weren't a thing like a few years ago. This summer official visit, like the timeline, the calendar shifted to the point where these summer official visits are so big now, and kids are committing at such a high rate that this summer does matter. Like what happens in July matters. What you do. Just from the end of that, because Miami burned 45 official visits. They just expanded it, so you have a little more, but typically it's 56. They probably wouldn't have burned 45 if they didn't. They probably knew already it was getting.
It's like 70 now. 75.
Yeah, I think it's 70. So you have plenty of room to play with. But bro, you burned 45. You burned way more than half of your official visits. Like I think you want to expect results and. I think that there is something to a lot of your targets are committing. There's a lot of guys that Miami wants that have committed. There are a bunch that haven't, but a lot that they have wanted are. So I do think because of the way things have changed, like these summer commitments do matter because statistically, these commitments stick. And yes, people are gonna flip, but I mean, big picture wise, what does the flip rate look like? I mean, I think they put up a number or something like that, and I think it's like 3 or 4% of commitments result in flips. So you don't want to be playing. You don't want to be relying on flipping guys. And Miami will do it. They flipped Collins. They flipped Caleb Spencer. They flipped Joshua Horton. Flipping Mark Fletcher. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a version of a flip. Even Ray, I think, is a version of a flip.
Yeah.
So like I just don't think that's the posture you want to be in for like, quality guys. And you can do that. You definitely can do that. And I do think Miami is a program that is uniquely positioned to be able to do that. But I do think the core of your class, you want to have that core, that foundation built, in the summer months. And I think Miami really last cycle, I think, did a fantastic job of that. You got Francis Mauigoa on board.
Yep.
At the time, you had Jaden Rashada on board. You had Nathaniel Joseph on board. You had Jaden Wayne. This day last year, Raul Aguirre committed to Miami. Didn't even take an official visit to Miami in that summer. You had a bunch of dudes like locked in at this point, and I think that led to some more momentum later on in the months. You ended up getting Malik Bryant. You get a guy in Tommy Kinzer, who's not a huge name, but is probably going to be a really good player.
Huge person.
Yeah, he's a massive human being, and they think he's going to be a total stud. Like, I'm getting like just insane Tommy Kinzer feedback. You get a lot of guys like that. So, but then just specifically in this situation, because I do think you have to kind of separate that. Like, every situation is different, and you look at what Miami can do and what they were. I mean, 5-7. You can get close. I think that's what they have. I think you're getting a lot of top dudes that will listen, that want to hear it. But it's almost like you kind of got to show me something, because I think when it's time to kind of boil it down, make that you're making a life-changing decision. I think you can. I think Miami's at a lot of top 2s, a lot of top 3s, a lot of top 5s. But there's no second place in recruiting. There's not a consolation prize. You don't get a participation trophy. You got to come out on top. And I think Miami's kind of in that range right now where they're so close. But again, when you're convening as a family, it's like, I can go here where I'm guaranteed to win, or I can go there, roll the dice, maybe win. Really, I believe what they're telling me. I believe I'm going to be developed. I believe they're going to win there, but I don't know yet. And that's why I think what happens here for Miami in this fall is going to be huge. Like, I kind of keep saying that this is going to be – I personally think this is going to be the biggest year in the Mario Cristobal era, period. And I know that he has a 10-year contract, but this – like, what happens this year, I think – crap. Bad time for that. What happens in this year, I think, determines what direction we're going in. I think if it turns around this year, I think a lot of people are going to buy in. I think we're going to see a lot of that. Maybe, you flip some dudes that maybe you weren't expecting to. And I'm not saying they will, but I think if you win, you put yourself in a position where, hey, these guys are actually doing what they're saying they're going to do. There's a lot of reasons to like Miami. There's a lot of things to be excited about this program. But, at the end of the day, these on-field results matter. So if they do that, I do think that it's only June or July crowd. Like, I think those guys will be –
the season matters. Yeah.
Like, those guys will see that they'll probably, maybe be right. Because if they do turn it around, people in that thought process, I guess, right now are going to, that's probably going to pay off. People panicking now, are going to be kind of, I guess, appeased or relieved if things do kind of get going. So it's just kind of depends. I think it's very situational. I think if you're a big time elite program, I think summer is what matters. You got to get your guys in this. Like, when Miami starts winning, if they win next year, you got to get your guys in the summer. There's too many classes right now at big time schools that are like 23, 24 guys. I think Georgia has nearly a complete class. I think they have like 24 dudes right now. I think Ohio State has like 21 dudes right now. A lot of these schools are stocking up, and they're able to do that. And look, and you know what that does? That just gives you the ability to pivot 6 months earlier. Because Georgia's not going to get it. Very unlikely Georgia gets dudes flipped, or at least if it does happen, it's not going to be anything crazy or unmanageable. Right. Like, those guys can just start recruiting 2025s now. Like, those guys just immediately pivot. Now they have a head start. They have a 6-month head start on everyone else, and they're the best program in the country. Like, when you get to that level of recruiting, it's just like, that's
such a good point.
Yeah. So I think, but for Miami, it's gonna come down to what they do in the fall, man. And I think really just kind of me talking to people, I think everyone, like, I feel like I'm getting that text so much these days. It's just like, we got to win, man. We got to win. We got to win. I'm asking about Jaden Jackson today. We got to win, man. And it's just like, I feel like that's just, I feel like they thought that what they could offer, which is great, they can do a ton of great things. They can offer a lot of great things. They have a great vision to sell, but I think that reality is just kind of hitting like, man, that 5-7 is really killing us right now. And I think they're really excited to get into that fall to try to change that narrative.
Good.
So you mentioned we have to win, right? You have to win. And then we talk about a team like Texas, who's been in the same boat as us.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won. So why is it Texas A&M? They haven't won. Mm-hmm. They've been they haven't won. So why is it
trash? You wrote trash.
They haven't won anything.
Yeah.
It's funny to me why people think Texas A&M is such a elite program. They haven't won more than 10 games since Johnny Manziel. It's ridiculous. But why is it? Why do kids
why is the standard different?
Why is it the standard for us that way and not them?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different reasons for that. I think Texas, all right, so I don't know. I've kind of gotten blown up for this take a few times, but I kind of see it in some ways. I see Texas as a program that's almost I think that's a program, right? Again, I'm not talking about Texas big picture. I'm talking about Steve Sarkisian era Texas. Sure. Is that's kind of the avenue I think Miami should be aiming for. So Steve Sarkisian, goes 5-7 in year one. Still there's a lot of questions. There's a bunch of things going on. They still sign a good class. Texas has, the resources there are, it's unmatched. Stadium, facilities, all that stuff, just top to bottom.
School.
States, I think it's just different. I think there are different types of schools. Texas A&M is just ginormous. I think there's just a different, just entire level. SEC football. I do think Miami is a small private school, and there's again, I think all that stuff, honestly, at the end of the day, there's just a different I think there's just a different perception about Miami and then those programs. But I do think what Steve Sarkisian's doing at Texas is something Mario Cristobal should aim to mirror. They didn't have a ground, and I'm not even saying Miami needs to win, Miami needs to win 10 games. Steve Sarkisian went 8-4, or I think ended up 8-5, lost a bowl game, but they went 8-4. I think they were one game away from they're one game away from playing in a conference championship, and then they signed the number 3 class in the country. And that's just because 5-7 to 8-4 likely means 8-4 to what? You go from 8 wins. If you're going to 5, if you're going to 5 to 8, you're probably going from 8 to 10. Maybe 11. I think now, and then you're stacking some more big time talent. That's another school that's recruiting at a high level, and then it just kind of it has the potential. I'm not saying it will. It has the potential to take off because of what you're able to do. So
and going to the SEC, right?
And they're going to the SEC. Yeah, there's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of things to be excited about with Texas. But still, again, I think if Miami were to go from 5-7 to 8-4, I think that's improvement that you could sell. I don't think recruits are waiting for Miami to win 10 games in 2023, right? I think they just want to see hey, this thing's going. This thing's not trending down. It's not going 5-7, 5-7, 6-6, 7-5. If you go 5-7 to 8-4. Or whatever, 8-4, maybe 9-4 if you win a bowl game, or 8-5, whatever the case is. I think you're showing people hey, we had a hiccup. Year 2, we picked it back up. We're going this way. Are you coming with us? Or you're not. It helped Texas. And again, I'm not saying Miami's going to sign the number 3 class in the country if they win 8 games, but I bet that they would be a lock to sign a similar class, range class, a top 7 class, maybe for sure a top 10 class. And I think that would be a big first step. So there's obviously different, again, I think it's just a perception thing with the Texas A&Ms and the Texases, but I do think if Miami can kind of follow that Steve Sarkisian Texas era path, I think that's the track that you kind of want to be on. Obviously, if you can surpass it, even better, but I think that's why you got to aim for 8 wins, because we saw how much that benefited Sarkisian and the Longhorns during this past recruiting cycle.
Yeah, and that big time fight game against Alabama was
that's a perception thing. Yeah, definitely.
That's a perception.
You're blown out by teams like Clemson and
you gotta battle someone to the wire, man. Again, you can't get blown out. You're getting blown out by teams you shouldn't get blown out by. You gotta beat the teams you're gonna beat. You scare a couple dudes. You know, not saying you have to go out and beat Clemson. Like, I'm not even saying like Florida State's obviously going to be really good and you want to beat Florida State. But like, I mean, I think Florida State could probably win the ACC. Like, I think you got to go up to Tallahassee and you need to be competitive for 4. Like, it needs to be a game. You can't be getting blown out by those dudes. Like, you can't like, Texas A&M can't come down here and, you know, just kind of really physically kind of manhandle you in the trenches or anything like that. You know, just make it like, you know, you just got to be competitive and, you know, you just got to keep those games close. You got to find a way to sneak one of those out. Like, I think winning Texas A&M, I think if they beat Texas A&M week 2, like that would just be such kind of like a catapulting moment for the program and just as far as the overall perception, the direction, recruiting, all that stuff.
That'll build a lot of confidence. It was like, okay,
confidence for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you. So when you talk to recruits and you get the whole feel for it and all that stuff, how big of a change in the year 2 years ago to now, right, with NIL? How big of an impact and how big of a change is that? Because like every state is different too, right? So like, do you have to like be up on like if Alabama, you know what I'm saying? Not Alabama, like Alabama's NIL is different, how they run it as a state than Florida and all that stuff. Like all that stuff matters. Like what impact, how big of an impact and how big of a change is the NIL now with recruiting? Because everything's out the door, right? Like you could talk to anybody, but like there's a bag man, be like, hey man, guess what? I got this much for you and you can get it right now. Because some states can pay high school kids.
Yeah, some states can pay high school kids. I think it's California's one. I'm not sure. I know there's definitely a few. I think Massachusetts is one because I know Samson Okunlola was tweeting about something about that last year. There are a few. Yeah, man. I mean, we don't have to. It's super touchy, you know. Like obviously, that's kind of like the way that. I mean, obviously they can't discuss NIL numbers with high school kids, and you know, like they can't. You know, it's a weird deal, and it's just it's hard to
it's another wrench in recruiting, right? It's another wrench.
It's a huge wrench. It's a huge wrench, and you know we can't. There's no way to gauge it. Like it's not even worth asking a kid. Like, hey, so like, or you know, what's the NIL situation? I mean, it matters if you have multiple Power 5 options. It's likely that it's a factor in one way or another, and you know, again, what does it look like exactly for everyone? It's totally different. Every situation is, you know, unique, but you know, we don't have to pretend like this thing doesn't exist or it's not influencing or anything like that. And what I will say is that I think the best way to kind of publicly, you know, kind of show the benefits of the NIL is by taking care of your current players. You know, the way that you treat your current players, I think, is the best way that you can show recruits, you know, in the most legal way possible of what's available at the university. And they do have NIL presentations where, you know, because now that the schools, I believe, can be involved to a certain way of just like facilitating conversations. So there are people who do have those conversations where they can kind of show how the team is doing from an NIL standpoint. So when you see Tyler Van Dyke whipping around a 750, you know, as you know, BMW like that, like that's a good thing. You know, when you're seeing, you know, bro, you go to you spend enough time around the football facility these days, and the cars around there are looking a little bit different than they did a few years ago. I mean, you got emerald green M3s, and you got Challengers and Hellcat Chargers and all these things, and it's just like, man, these guys are doing all right. So, you know, I do think Miami's at the forefront of this thing. You know, I think that they've done a really good job of taking care of their players. I think they've done a really good job of just, you know, showcasing to the country that if, you know, Miami's a place that's extremely competitive in the NIL market. So I think Miami's at a really good spot there. But with the recruits, it's all over the place. It's all over the place, man. And I honestly don't. I'm at the point right now where I'm just like, I would honestly rather not know, just because I don't ever want to say that I knew if God forbid this ever goes the wrong way. I'm just talking about anyone. Like when people tell me like, oh, I heard this kid got this at some other random school, and I'm like, bro, don't tell me. Like I don't want to know any of this stuff. Like I literally just like, awesome, he's going there. That's like my bottom line right now. Where you go to school has become my bottom line. You know, it's just like, I know there's so many factors, but if you try to keep up with every aspect of it, one, you won't, because it's borderline impossible. And 2, it's just exhausting because this is already hard enough trying to figure out where a kid's gonna go on, like, in and of itself. And then you're just not going to get a lot of good information on it unless it's like a rival school that's saying to their person, "Oh, this kid's getting this from this," and then at that point,
on their message board,
who really knows, right? Like now, it's like a kid commits somewhere, and it's just like, yeah, of course, because he's chasing the bag. It's like, bro, everyone has money. Like everyone has
a bag. Everyone.
Yeah, like I know, like the Devon Mitchell stuff over the weekend. Like I was reading through the Oklahoma board. It's like, oh yeah, Miami must have upped the bag. It's just like, no, dude, Miami's been recruiting this kid for like 6 months. Like he just camped there for like the coaches and stuff. Like, what are you talking about? Like this kid's always been thinking about them. Like no one's upping any bags here. Like, I mean, can we stop all of this? Like this is crazy. And I get it happens, but it's just I feel like it's just become the excuse or the outlet to like every lost recruiting battle these days. And it's just like, come on, bro. Like maybe not. We'll never know. So it's so much speculation and things like that these days that it's just hard to grasp.
Yeah. Joe, what you got?
We don't want to keep you forever, but
you're good.
I want to shift to star rankings.
Ooh,
right? Star rankings.
Yep.
4-7. Star rankings. I have a ranking system. How is that done? Like, how is that done for every recruit in America? Like, how is that done, man?
I do not envy Andrew Ivins at all these days. I mean, that's the world he lives in now.
Mm-hmm.
On that scouting side. Look, man, I've never even sat in on one of those ranking meetings. I've heard that people are duking it. It's not like a public forum, like at least even for us at 247, it's not like, hey, if anyone wants to be a part of this rank, like, even just tune into this rankings call, like here's the link. Mm-hmm. Like, these guys are in there. I've heard that it gets feisty in there, man. Just people battling for their guys. There's never really one clear answer. Obviously they're looking for verified data points. I mean, just, they want to see how fast you are, how high you can jump, lateral stuff, L drill, vertical, multi-sport stuff, verified height, verified weight, which is a lot harder to find than you think, especially if that's why people say like, oh, I didn't camp, so I'm not going to get ranked high. Well, if you camped, we would know how fast you are. We would know we'd have all this information. Yeah. We'd have all the information that we could possibly need on you, because when you go to these camps, especially like the Under Armour camps, like the UC report camps, they take your height, they take your weight, they take your wingspan. You run the 40, you do the L drill, you do the 3 cone. Every single one of your reps is recorded, and then it gets sent out to every single college in the country. So like now we have all your data, and so does everyone else. So it's just like, like maybe you can try to be like, oh, I didn't camp, but it's just like, maybe you should have. Like if you're that good, maybe you should have ran the 40, because fast people aren't afraid to show people how fast they are. And if you're that fast, then why didn't you run the 40? So it's just stuff like that and I'm not saying that like if a kid doesn't run a 40, that means he's not fast, or that means that it'll impact anything. But it's just a lot of it's these people. I mean, these guys are projecting to, and I think that's something else that people don't really necessarily realize, is that when they're ranking these kids, they are projecting to draft day. They're not ranking the best high school football players in the country. If they're ranking the best high school football players in the country, Ruben Bain would have been a top 5 prospect in the world.
That's the question. That's what we always wonder.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a common misconception, is just like, we are not saying we're not ranking on, hey, this kid is the best high school football player in the country. We're saying this kid is a potential 1st-round pick. This kid is a potential 2nd-round pick. So the way we do it now at 247, which I love, and like, when we get our version, like on my side of like our top 247 releases, they color code every 32 picks. So the 5 stars, we have 32 5 stars are the, projected 1st rounders. And obviously not every single one of those guys is going to go in the 1st round, but ideally you want to try to hit on those guys. Those are guys that you're banking on in 3, 4, 5 years are going to be selected in the 1st round. And then that 33 to, I'm bad at math, 33 to whatever, 65.
64, yeah.
Those are guys, that's your 2nd round. right? So like I think that's a fresh way to kind of like we're not saying, and that's I think a thing with like Ruben. Like I think Ruben Bain ended up being like a number 90 something player. So we're essentially saying Ruben Bain is a draftable. Like he's gonna get. We're like when we're ranking Ruben Bain, we're saying Ruben Bain is gonna. We believe Ruben Bain is gonna be drafted, and it's just like if Ruben Bain's drafted, that means he had a really good career. You know, like that means he had a really good career at Miami. Maybe he's drafted higher than we thought. But you know they're looking at the measurables, they're looking at all that stuff, and you're looking at the production, you're looking at the tape.
He's in the first 32.
Oh, 100%. Ruben Bain is 6'6". He's in the top one. You know, like Ruben Bain's a total freak show. He's the motor on Ruben. I mean, there's no denying the motor, the everything. I mean, everything. He's just, you know, he's not prototypical. You know, he's not what you normally see. And there's nothing wrong with that. There have been people shorter and like, you know, more sought off than Ruben Bain that have had good NFL careers. The comp that a lot of people throw around with Ruben Bain now is like Melvin Ingram, who's had a very successful NFL career. And he's like, 6'1", you know, he plays for the Dolphins now. Like he's been a star pass rusher for years and years and years. He was a first round pick out of South Carolina, all that stuff. You know, he's like, you know, if Ruben Bain could be that, but, you know, they're obviously looking at tape. They're looking at the production. They're looking at level of competition, but a lot, you know, track times, you know, just things like that. Any sort of information that they can get their hands on. And when there's a lack of information, you're either gambling, which, you know, they don't love doing. These people are all very analytical, or you just can't, you don't like, you'd rather just kind of fall back on that. You know, we don't really know. So I'm going to slap you know, maybe, and again, I'm not speaking for them. I'm not a part of this process. I don't know how this process works, but it's like maybe you're going to be more reserved on a prospect that you don't have as much information on until you get the information that you need. And at the end of the day, you want the only rankings anyone's going to remember long term are the final rankings. So when the cycle wraps up at the end, it's a fluid process. You know, there's a lot of information that we're still gathering, you know, just especially at this time of the year. So you want to be right at the end, you know, when people look back in 5 years and they say, hey, where was Ruben Bain ranked? It didn't matter that Ruben Bain was 257, you know, in March of his junior year. It matters that Ruben Bain was number 90 when it was all said and done. Like that's where you want to kind of be the most sure about where you're leaving these guys. So, I mean, it's tough, man. It's imperfect. It's impossible. The circumstances surrounding any given player it's literally unpredictable. You don't know where they're going to end up in 3 to 4 years. So it's very hard, but these guys honestly do a really good job. They're very thorough. You know, there's a lot of people that give their opinions. It's not just one guy in a room that's just ranking his thoughts. It's multiple that have had more exposures to these kids than many, many others. Ivan's hits a ton of events, national events, local events. He's here in South Florida. So, I mean, I do feel like they do the best job that they possibly can to get a proper grade on a lot of these kids.
Andrew Ivans, I want to talk to you, Andrew. I want to talk to you because I want to see if they get to games. Like, how do you get to games? Like, do you come to North Carolina or find somebody in Idaho? The Luna Brothers. Have you been to a Luna Brothers game? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get?
Who's been to Idaho?
We do have national guys. I mean, we have regional guys all over. So, like, we have, like, you know, we got a guy in the Midwest. We got a guy in the Northeast that also does Carolinas. We got a guy, Cooper. I guess he just moved to Nashville, but he was in Birmingham before. Nice. Biggins is in SoCal. Brandon Huffman's in the Pacific Northwest. Right. Blair Angulo's the mountain region, so I think he would probably be the Luna brothers. But then that's hard. Like, it's these kids are playing 8-man football in Idaho. It's just like, dude, like what do we make of this? You know, it's tough. But true. Those kids are good. Those kids are really good athletes, and they honestly kind of look good too. Like, just kind of haven't seen them. So
big kids, very big kids.
Yeah, they are, man. They are. Yeah, they're interesting for sure. Those are like what I do honestly appreciate about Miami is I do feel like they have upgraded what the average walk-on looks like. Like, they have been extremely intentional about adding walk-ons, because I get these, like, you know, I'll get like the visitors list or something before a spring practice or whatever it is, and like almost every practice they have like a PWO on. Like, I don't report. I mean, what am I gonna do there? But like they almost always have a PWO that's visiting, that they're like, what? I mean, they're recruiting him. You know, he'll go on the visit, he'll do the whole thing, but he's a PWO. You know, like he's a guy that they want to add to the program, maybe not on scholarship, but I do think that they've done a good job of, because you want to give these guys good looks, right? Like, if you're getting looks against some kid that's on his way to biochemical engineering. Like that's not gonna work, bro. Like you need to get a kid that's a football player to give you like a legit look.
They can be biochemical engineers.
Yeah, you could be a biochemical engineer when you're not out here like dunking on dudes,
knocking somebody's head off.
Yeah. Like I don't want like just some like meatballs there, like like blocking Ruben Bain during scout team. Like give me like a
we saw that
nice
during spring
guy
practice.
Get out there.
We saw that at spring game. We saw some meatballs.
They're getting. I do think they're getting there from that standpoint.
So Gabby, I told you I was going to ask you a David.
Yeah.
So I listened to the show, obviously, man. Just a question: is that David Lake's real voice? Because he sounds like it doesn't sound like a real voice, man. Like it doesn't. Like when I listened to it, I was like, that's not his real voice. I was like, he's putting on his podcast voice for everybody else. I don't believe it for a second.
Bro, David Lake is, first off, one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. One of my greatest friends. Like he's become like honestly a great friend. I think everyone has their kind of radio voice, to an extent. But bro, it's just different. Like, like if when you're talking to someone in person, it's obviously gonna be a little different. His voice is his voice. And but he's awesome. He's awesome.
No, he knows his stuff. I was listening to it. I was like, David, this isn't your voice, David. Stop it, David.
No, it is and it isn't, I guess, depending on the situation, it can be, I think that's his radio voice. But that's, bro, I'm telling you, David Lake is like all time awesome dude. Like literally, he's one of those dudes that like, if I had one phone call, he's probably one of the dudes I'm calling. Like he's the man. He's the man, and he's a great friend. And yeah, that's my dude. He's a quiet guy, he's not like he's not
very
like
quiet. That's why when he tries to like joke, or like my favorite part is like when he doesn't want to send a shot to a former defensive coordinator from last year. He's like, when he goes, that's just my 2 cents. That's how I feel about that. That's all I'm going to say.
He definitely has some takes, man. You got to hear unfiltered David is all time.
You can tell he wants to get spicy, but he's like, no, this is a professional podcast.
He can get spicy. Serious. Hey, bro, if you want to hear spicy David Lake, if you want to hear David Lake in his element, go back and listen to some of those end of Manny Diaz era press conferences. Have you guys got to listen to some of those, bro. When Blake James, after that, right before they beat NC State, that they had lost already a few in a row,
right?
Blake James like publicly kind of distanced himself from Manny Diaz, like called basically press conference. There was only like Susan Miller and I think Barry that basically Blake James talked to, and kind of like became non-committal on Manny Diaz coming back. He ends up winning the next few games or whatever. So David just goes on a tirade, bro. Like I'm telling you, it would be gold if you got to listen to like one of those like post NC State game press conferences where he's just asking Manny Diaz like, so how do you feel about your athletic director publicly, separating himself from you after you just won a ranked game at home? Remember. Like all that, like bro, David went like full like melt, like I'm burning this place to the ground mode, and it was awesome. David's like top notch. Like David's like the kind of like the nonsense. It is a super legit question, but no one was asking it. Like it's a very fair question that no one like, and he hammered it. He kept going, and he was like battling like the mute, but like crazy stuff, bro. Crazy stuff. David's the man. David's a big J.
I remember
David's a big J journalist, bro.
Yeah, that was when Manny would be in front of that green screen that always like faded him out. I was like, Manny, why are you doing this? Just be in your office. That was terrible. It was like optically it looks like shit. Like, come on, bro.
He's the man.
It was tough.
David's awesome.
Joe, what you got before we let Gabby up out of here, man?
Recruiting, man. So no, we're not even gonna do that. Are we getting some good news anytime soon?
I think
in your opinion.
I think so. I think so. I do think you mentioned Artavius Jones. He was a name I haven't really been working, honestly. This is the first time I've opened my laptop. Talking to you guys is the first time I've opened my laptop in like 4 days. I do think that, I'm getting a little bit of Artavius Jones buzz. They've been really pressing him. He teased that July 4th date to me, right after that official visit. Right. Came and went. I think that they've been on him really, really hard. They've just been wearing him down, trying to get him on board. They absolutely love him. I'm not saying he's jumping on board or anything like that. Like,
right.
I think it's possible, but I'm not saying that like the kid's definitely committing. But getting some positive Artavius Jones buzz, and I do think that they got a couple things up their sleeve, man. Just kind of stay tuned here over the next few days, man. I think expecting some sort of good news. We'll see what comes. We'll see if they're blowing smoke or if some things are going on. But typically when these kind of things get relayed, it's usually not for no reason. I don't even know what's going on, honestly. We'll see what happens, but I do think that there could possibly be some positive news coming soon. So just kind of be expectant. I don't know when, but I'm optimistic that something good will happen here relatively soon, maybe over the next week or so.
Okay.
All right, last one from me, Gabby, before we get you up out of here. How big was the hiring of Jason Taylor, keeping him away from the Dolphins and keeping him on when obviously the focus for this year was the defensive line?
Yeah, Jason Taylor's, having him on staff is huge, bro. Jason Taylor's he's the man. He's a real deal. He comes to work every day. There's not a lot of guys with gold jackets that are going to do what he does. As far as just putting, bro, this college football calendar is an absolute grind. You gotta love it. He does. He takes it seriously. He puts in all the work. I think it's massive for Miami to have him. I think pass rushers want to be developed by him. You saw Marquise Lightfoot. Ohio State's still kind of tripping about that one, like how they did not get Marquise Lightfoot. I think it's Taylor had a huge role, like the potential development there. Jason Taylor's massive, man. And that's why, I'm banking on Miami on the defensive line this cycle, just because I do think that ultimately, he's gonna, he's been great at everything he's done over the course of his career. He's a great and willing recruiter. And, I do think it's going to pay off for Miami this cycle with JT kind of leading the charge. So I think it was really big for Miami to kind of keep him away from the Dolphins, or however that situation played out, which I've heard multiple things. Who knows what's true? But regardless, he's here at Miami. And, I think it's been a huge blessing for them. And I think it's going to be one of those things, kind of like enjoy him while you got him, because who knows? I think his future is his future. He's going to go as far as he wants to go in this industry. I know he loves South Florida. He loves Miami. Honestly, I don't even know, like, I really don't know. People think he's going to stick around for a while just because he just has no interest in leaving South Florida. And, I don't think money is a big driving factor either. I'm sure he's getting paid very well, and I'm sure he's got plenty left over from his very extremely storied and long NFL career. So I think as long as the Dolphins don't come poach him, I think he'll be here, man. So I think he's an absolute rock star.
How long was he at STA? Gabby?
I think he was at STA for like 5 years or something. As DC, coached up a ton of studs. Yeah. Dallas Turner being one of the bigger names to come out of there at that time. Probably a round pick next year out of Alabama. Played at STA under him. So bunch of others that if I looked up, it would be pretty impressive. But yeah, man, JT's awesome.
Joe, got anything before we let Gabby go and try to breathe through 5 seconds?
Man, I'm gonna let you rest, man, and get some good rest and heal up.
I appreciate you guys, man. It was awesome being on here with you guys, and appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man. Whenever you want to come back, man.
Yeah.
You want to come back, man? We'll talk, man.
No doubt,
Gabby, and say what's up to your brother, man. He joins my boy on Battered Fish, I think. Shout out to Cali, man.
Big Cal, bro.
Yeah, big Cal, bro. All right, Gabby, we'll talk, man.
Brother.
Thank you so much,
bro. Appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Take it easy. Man, listen. Hopefully my internet sticks through this time.
Yeah,
because this is crazy. All right, let's get this Caneswear ad and let's chop it. You don't have to do it. You don't do it every time. Every time, fam. Okay. All right.
Welcome to Caneswear. Family owned and operated since 2010. Caneswear has all the latest merchandise for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Inter Miami Soccer, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of I-595, or online at caneswear.com. Caneswear, the spot Miami fans shop.
Hey, man, listen. The backpack. Go get it. You already know what Caneswear, man. We ain't going to spend too much time with it. You know how Brett and Jeff do. You know what I'm saying? They keep it official out there. Listen,
no, I don't like them. I don't like them. First of all, I don't like them putting that backpack out like that. Like, people have to work. You know, people are doing things throughout the day, and you're just gonna drop it in the middle of the day like that, man. That was wrong.
We're trying to be productive.
I saw it and I was like, "What the is going on here?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So tough, tough.
Very, very. Man.
I was getting ready to do the show. You know what I'm saying? Come on here before my internet did its thing, and my wife goes, "Did you see the backpack from Caneswear?" I was like, "I already got it. It's already on the way." Yes, I saw it, and it's on the way. Yeah, man. That had to get it. Y'all already know what it is, man. Caneswear.com. That's the family, man. Shout out to Brett and Jeff. New store opening soon. Listen, we got some things we got to talk about. This is a real serious conversation here. One of our third co-host, our third member, said some outlandish shit.
I don't want him to be a third member no more. He's
is he suspended?
He might be. Nah, I need him to be here. We let's not talk about this. I need him to be here. I need him to be front and center.
Yeah, he needs called to the carpet. We gonna call him to the carpet.
There's no.
All right,
he got to be here for this because we got to.
I don't understand. I'm so disappointed. I just don't understand life at that point. I'm like, what the fuck? What?
He's done a lot of disappointing things. Like he's really just.
So I just see Joe going like,
well, I need to talk to him and see what's going on.
Oh man, as well. Yo, shout out to Gabby, man. Really enjoyed that conversation with him. It was cool just getting to know him, man. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times you just see like the tweets and you really don't know the person, so it was cool getting to know him. Shout out to David Lake. We'll have his voice on the show one of these, you know what I'm saying, one of these days, man. See how he's doing, man. Big J journalist. But yeah, man, look. So CB's got to come on the show. He'll be on Sunday probably, and we'll handle that fruit conversation then. Yo, man, take a serious turn here. Shout out to Coach Hayes for doing a 6-hour show yesterday.
Yeah.
On this Pat Fitzgerald thing, man. But I know you wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about this. It's a little bit different. But when you first started seeing the news about this whole Pat Fitzgerald thing, what were your thoughts?
The
Northwestern. So sorry.
Northwestern. It's a whole the whole
school,
It just strikes a nerve with me, man, because again, parents rely on these people to look after their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Fam, I understand they are not 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, but they are still young and impressionable, man.
Facts.
17, 18, 19. Legally at 18, you're an adult, but you're not a full adult, man. You don't know what you should know at 18. You're not prepared fully to be on your own like that. Like,
facts.
You can. There's adults that are 40. Imagine like the people who say these 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds are adults and imagine you have an 18-year-old daughter and she's dating a 45-year-old man. Like, that would just like you would be hot.
She's an adult, right? She's an
adult. She's an adult though. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
He's not gonna get it. He's not gonna legally, he's not gonna get it.
But you're gonna feel some kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah, son. Like that's what it is, man. Like these adults are tasked. First of all, when you work at the university, man, you have a code of ethics. There's an ethics thing. You have to follow, like, your job, your responsibility is to protect the students. Everybody's a student. There's student athletes, but everybody's a student. Your job is to protect the students, man. And if a head coach says, I didn't know what was going on, that's bullshit.
Yep.
That is 100%.
Biggest lie of the whole thing. Yeah.
The head coach is involved in everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you say you didn't know what's going on, that's even worse to
Facts.
me.
Then you're incompetent.
I mean? Yeah, that's crazy. You know, so that's the worst part of it to me, man, is that these adults are taking advantage of cats in the building, man. You know what I mean? And I don't like that, man. That's terrible. That's terrible to me. That's man, I'm not feeling it at all. So yeah.
What I found interesting, look, like I was never, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't in the whole thing of like, oh, it's the locker room and it's different in the locker room, you get to crack jokes, but fam, like, listen, I was in the army, man. Like I'm gonna keep it a buck and I'm gonna keep it real. I was in boot camp, right? You get caught up in shit, and you do dumb shit as a group, right? You do dumb shit as a group. Like I remember there was one ended up being a close friend of mine, but he was fucking up, and we did dumb shit, right? Like we threw buckets of water on him, you know, we bullied him, right? Because it was like, because you're thinking like your life is in this guy's hands, but it's a different shit. And to this day, I regret that, right? So, like, but when you're in it, right? Like to ask one of the players, fam, like nobody in that moment is gonna be honest, right? Like none of the players are gonna be honest. Like, oh, we did it because it builds team. No, it doesn't, man. Like, no, it doesn't. Like that's the biggest lie. Like that bullying shit. That's the big. Like no part of making somebody else feels better makes you a better team. Because guess what? That guy is your teammate, and you made him feel like shit. That guy's your battle buddy. That guy's your soldier. All that shit. You made him feel like shit. How does that make you a better team? You just made him the weakest link. Yep. All that car wash shit, all that dry humping, fam. Like you had coaches running this shit. You had coaches running this. So you didn't know what your coaches were doing. You didn't know what the people you hired. You didn't know what they were doing. All of it is bullshit. And shout out to Coach Chase's co-host that was talking about it. He said that like the agreement was with Pat Fitzgerald that he was going to do the 2-week suspension during the dead period, so it meant nothing. It meant that the suspension meant nothing, and then they weren't gonna investigate any further. But I said it on Twitter. I was like, when the ship dropped, I was like, oh, he's gonna be fired in a couple of days. Yeah. It's always the same script. We know it's gonna be worse than the initial outlet. So when I was seeing this shit, I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. Yeah. And what was wild to me was like the people trying to defend it. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, like we seen Sandusky, Danny Cannell, Darren Ravel. We seen Sandusky. So because you had a personal relation, like fam, like you could. It's okay to distance yourself with somebody you know fucks up. Like you don't have to always cape up and stand for them. That's not, you know what I mean? That's not real life. You got new information now. You have the ability to change your mind. Yeah. But it was like I didn't like the whole perspective of like, oh, it's the locker room thing. Like fam, like how does that make you like, you tell me, Joe, like you were in the locker room, you play football, your son was in the locker room. How do those acts make you a better team and get somebody to act right? And is it just traumatic?
Yeah, it's individual, right? It's on an individual basis. You have some people who are just more strong-minded than other people. You have some people who can take it, who are willing to take it, whatever. You know what I mean? But you don't know. Like when I was in school, when I went to college, I'm sure it was probably worse because there's no social media. You know, there's no outlets like that. But you have people that's not doing it. Like I didn't partake in the freshman hazing shit. I didn't partake in that. Like, yo, fam, I know y'all do this. I'm not doing. Don't do that with me. We don't do that. We don't do that type of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not doing it. So, but you got people who do it. But it wasn't like that. It probably was, yo, walk around with a jock on your head, or you know what I mean, you carry my equipment or something like that. It wasn't totally humiliating or no sexual type stuff or nothing like that. But you know, obviously and again, man, it's not the athletes or the students that come up with these things. It's the adults.
Yeah, the coaches did this.
It's the adults, man. The adults in the building have the ability to steer these kids any type of way.
Facts. They have the power.
Make them great, or you could make them terrible. You know what I mean? And man, oh gosh,
I think that's the part that the part that was missing, right? Like, is the fact that like the coaches were like in charge of this. The coach, you know what I'm saying? Like there was coaches who were like
player led.
Yeah, like if that was a player led thing, that player leaves and eventually is like, yeah, man, what the fuck are we doing here? This is stupid. We're gonna stop this. If that became the standard, if that became what they did as an institution, as an administration, that's not. You know what I'm saying? That's different. Like, so it's not like, yo, man, you need to tighten up. Let's go run some laps. You know what I mean? Like if punishment A, if fuck up A led to punishment A, you know what I'm saying? Like that's already a standard. Somewhere that shit's written. You know what I mean? Like he did this, so now he's got to get the car washed, or he did this, now he's got to get this, or this, or like fam, like that thing, and especially Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach, was there for 17 years. He could at any point could have stopped it. You either didn't want to stop it or thought it was okay.
But it was cool, yeah.
You thought it was cool. You thought it was just normal shit. No, fam, it's not. Like you look around and see like not every player is gonna be like, oh, I understand why we're doing this, because everybody's different. You know what I mean?
He was around during Sandusky. He was around during the Sandusky era. You know
he was in the conference. He was in the conference with the Sandusky shit.
Yeah.
Like how do you not stop it, man? Come on. Like that locker room excuse is not. Yes, you say outlandish shit when you're not on social media and there's all that. Yes, 100%. We're not gonna fucking lie out here. But when the adults in the room are responsible for the behavior, I mean, it's institutional control, and that's just what it is. It was just it's gross, man. It was disgusting to see it, but I was like,
fam,
I told you
at Northwestern. Like Northwestern is like a prominent institution. Right?
I know.
Academic excellence. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, just try not to get your like doctors injured and future. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're injured. Like, come on, son. These cats want to build bridges and roller coasters. Son. What are
exactly. They're trying to change the world out there. What y'all trying to break them because they missed a pass? Fuck out of here, man.
Crazy, man. We know like every shit goes on in locker rooms. We know that, man. There's a lot of crazies. Yes, there's a lot of crazy, but that's the bonding part of it. Like just the brotherhood of being in the binding. I'm sorry, the part of that. Yeah, the bonding part of it is going through mat drills together or practicing in 100-degree heat together, man.
Mm-hmm.
Going to battle with your brothers. That's the bonding part of it. You know what I mean? Sleeping in a locker room during 2-a-days. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to walk back to the dorms. You know, that's the bonding part of it. You know, one of your brothers on the team has a death in the family, and his brothers, everybody on the team, you know, comes to his aid. That's bonding. Not that bullshit. Come on, man.
Yeah. That's team building. Not that hazing bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Not carrying somebody's pads. That's cool. That's cool. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? But that JoJo's told y'all, man. That's the bonding of it, man. It never made sense. That other shit never made sense to me, man. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Crazy. Yo, man, look. We got 4 winners on the show.
Let's get it.
We got to announce the 225 car winners. One for the 900. You know what I mean? So 900, $25 gift card. Because this, look, I'm gonna give it to this guy because I'm gonna do a little. He's consistently giving us reviews and comments about the show he just watched. So our guy Brick by Brick, man, you know what I'm saying, on Twitter. Fam, you got the homework. You know what I'm saying? You got the homework. You saw the 2 and 2, so $25 gift card, man. You're gonna listen to this tomorrow. I already know you listen to it on Google Podcasts, man. So shout out to you, man. All right, another $10 gift card. Let me make sure I get this name right. Because he said one of the words that I'm all about, which is culture. You know what I mean? From the last episode. I think it's Tales of the Father on YouTube, man. You got the point of it. So you get a $10 gift card, man. Shout out to you, man. Always dropping comments, letting us know what you think about the show, man. We appreciate it. 1,000 views on this last episode, man. Make sure I get this name right. Say the whole thing. Give me a second as I scroll. Yeah, Tales of the Father, 35-13, man. You know what I'm saying? He said, I say culture also gives us 3 more wins than last year. ATVD being healthy gives us 1 more win. That's 9. Defense alone keeps us in every game. So that being said, winning one of the monster games, Clemson or Texas A&M, gives us one more. So he's real hopeful about that one, man. He took the time to write it, man. So you get a $10 gift card, man. All right, what else we got here? Hey, $10 gift card. Even though you don't really listen to R&B, fam, you can't say Omarion is R&B when he's really not.
Don't go at the guy. Don't go at him.
Hey, that's my guy, man. Look, that's my guy. That's my he shamed me for the charcoal thing, as did you, but we family. It's all good, man. Shout out to Cuban Kane, man. You get a $10 gift card. You followed the homework. All right, we got one more $25 gift card, man, for 1,000 subscriber. We doing this shit live on the show, man. Live on the show. All right, let's see what we got here. Hey, man, look, just you getting this one because, first of all, shout out to this Autism Awareness for Life 305. You get a $25 gift card. Hit us up on our Twitter, man. So we send your information over to Cane's Wear. Make sure you get right and get that backpack, yo. And listen, we gonna be at.
No, we can't all be at the tailgate with the backpack on. Huh?
No, one team, man. It's like we gonna be wearing Kane shit.
We can't all be on the
just be all of the picture, all of the picture with our backs turned.
I'm gonna have mine.
It's already on the way. Yeah, Autism Awareness for Life 305, man. Shout out to you, man. You know what I'm saying? $25 gift card. Make sure everybody that we mentioned, make sure y'all hit us up on Twitter, man. Send us your email. So we send that information over to Brett at Kingswear. So that $25 gift card can be put in your checkout, man. So yeah, man. That's it. That's all I got. What you got, Joe?
Yes, sir. Nah, we good, man. Appreciate everyone, man. Please continue to subscribe. Yep. You know, we're trying to get to 2,000 now by our first game. You know what I mean? Yep. By September, was the 2nd?
2nd, yep. September
2nd, man. We're trying to get 2,000 by the 2nd. So, you know, you pushed us. We're ahead of schedule.
Yep.
So, yeah, just keep subscribing, man. Keep liking, keep commenting on us, man. And we love it, man. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, man. And always, you know what I'm saying? Let us know what you think of the show, man. Comment. Let us know. We'll respond to it. You see how we did with Tales of the Father, man. We love that shit. Like we love going back and forth. We love the live chat that pops up when we drop this show, man. We appreciate all of it, man. So we appreciate the hell out of y'all, man. Everybody that responds. Y'all could be anywhere else in the world, man, but you're here with us. Yes, all right, man. Yes, you heard podcast, man. We out. Peace.
No.